Welcome back to part 2 of my build. So we're going to continue from where we left off on the first floor. This was a fun part because it makes these tiles look really decent. I've used a variety of materials to decorate. Some I just left with just the borders, but others I used, again, this sculptor's mesh cut to size, cut to fit, glued down with PVA glue, which it kind of works, but to actually get it sitting flushly, I'd put PVA glue down, put the mesh on, and then a bit of greaseproof paper on top and a weight put on it to keep it as flat as possible. And then other ones I used cuts, little bits of cable ties, and then more small card sections with the 45-degree cuts just on the insides. And I did use something else. Just an offcut of some packaging material, bit of plastic, which looks quite nice. Just anything with texture would do here. I just wanted some to have lots of detail. Onto the top floor. I did this one a bit differently. Ideally I would have made the same tiles again, but they took so long. I just wanted to do something slightly different, and I wanted them smaller. So I cut 3 sections, and these are 4 centimeters wide rather than 5 for the bottom floor. And then I just border the whole section with the 5mm cardstock again. And then I cut some big rectangles of sculptor's mesh, PVA glue, whack them down, greaseproof paper again, and weights on top. So they're just entirely mesh, these top sections, just one big piece for the 3 parts. Also, I didn't want a front section. I just wanted this to go around the sides and the back of the tower. The first part of this video I didn't actually do. I did cut these little lengths of chipboard to use as supports for each of the floors, but I actually changed my plan later on, so these weren't used. But this part is riveting, and this takes ages but looks so good. What I use here are these fingernail bead decoration things, and they're 1.5mm. I bought these very cheaply. I bought a big bag for like 500 of them for a small amount of money, and I got them, and I was slightly concerned that they weren't like thick enough to actually show properly, but after getting paint down they look absolutely fine, so very pleased with these. So I just rivet the entire thing, lots and lots of rivets. I just do this section by section, put the rivets close to where I'm going to glue them with tweezers, spot a super glue, and then maneuver them into place with a cocktail stick, and repeat the process all over. Right, what I do now is glue the floor sections together. So I just use PVA glue, whack it down the edges, stick them all together, and then a bit of greaseproof paper on top and underneath, and then some weights to make sure it's all as flat as possible. And then I wanted that bond to be a bit stronger, so I just glued some card onto the bottom, like the inner edges. You won't be able to see it, it's all going to be black anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but just for a bit more strength. And then I do the same for top and bottom floors, but the bottom floor I leave off the front edge because I want it to be able to slide in and then glue the front platform on afterwards. Now I just hoped my measurements were correct, and it turns out they were, so this all fits nicely. I'm getting on to attaching the floors now, but I was a little bit concerned that they wouldn't be strong enough just glued onto the tower. Um, so what I came up with was using a pin vise, little drill. Uh, the drill bit I think is 2 mil, same size as a cocktail stick. I drilled holes in the sides and the back of the tower underneath where the floors would go, put in cocktail sticks, and then it was a tiny bit off, so I just glued some tiny card sections to the bottom of the floors where it will rest on the cocktail sticks, and then I just glue it all in with a copious amount of PVA glue and wait for it to dry. I'm surprised this hasn't happened more frequently. This is the first time it's happened during any of my tutorial videos, and I'm sure it will continue after this. But my cat wanted to join in the fun, so she jumped up on the desk as I was getting ready to glue the floors. Yeah, there you go. Onto the ladders. I need to make 3 ladders for each of the sections, to the first floor, second floor, and then up to the roof. I wasn't really sure how to do this, but then I had this idea, which I will improve on next time. But I take some cable ties and I drew a line down the centre of the cable tie and then marked off at centimetre, I did this at centimetre intervals, and I just drilled through it with my pin vise. I did this once as a guide, and because I'm having 3 ladders, I need to do 6 sides. So I taped 5 more cable ties onto this one, keeping them as straight as I possibly could, and then using the first one as a guide, I drilled through all the other ones through each of the holes. This did work, but in retrospect, doing 6 at once was way too many. And the line I drew initially down the centre, I was off in a few places. But it's only a millimetre or two off on some of the holes. So it's not really that noticeable. But what I would do next time is just completely tape 2 cable ties together with masking tape all the way along, draw a line down the centre with a pencil, mark each centimetre interval with a hobby knife first, so I've got somewhere to rest the drill bit and then drill through. But anyway, after these were drilled through, I fed through cocktail sticks through each of the holes, and I tried to keep this section a centimetre wide, and then I glue it down, glue all the cocktail sticks with super glue, wait for it to dry, snip them off with wire cutters, and then repeat the process with the other two ladders. Then I've taken 5mm wide sections of chipboard and hot glued those to the sides. One of these, as you can see, didn't stick properly, so I have to pull the hot glue off again and then do it again. But it was fine the second time. Maybe it would be better to use PVA glue or super glue, but this worked okay. And then I cut the ladders to length, and I just use my wire cutters for this and just ping through the chipboard and the cable ties. I think these turned out fine, but I may well improve on this later. As a final bit, for the bottom ladder going up to the first floor, I realised it wasn't going to be that strong a bond if it was just glued at the top. So I just cut a little section of chipboard and glued it to the bottom on the right hand side, and then glued this to the body of the tower. I then attach all the ladders, and I just use hot glue for this. I wanted a bit more detail on the front, something to draw the eye. So I have the kids' toys, the pipelines. So I've measured up two sections the same, glued them, filed off the mold lines, and then I glue these to the front of the tower. I thought the pipes I've just glued on the joint wasn't that strong, so I've added a chipboard support at the bottom. It's kind of hidden, so I don't mind having that there. And then after this is done, I glue in the final first floor section of tiles at the front. I just use PVA glue. Wait for all this to dry, and then I Mod Podge the entire thing. Wait for that to dry, and then I spray paint it with black primer, and then coat it with burnt umber all over. Okay, that's the end of the build. Come back and join me for part 3 and the painting.